Do you breathe purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors? Now, time for the most in-depth look at the world of ECU athletics. Welcome in to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Now, here's your host, Stephen Igo.
All right, welcome in. Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday. It is March 19th. And we are one day away from the field of 64 and under getting going. NCAA tournament always underway on a Tuesday officially, but the real tournament action starts on Thursday. UNC getting a win last night. We'll discuss that and more over the course of the next hour. We're going to talk a lot of Pirate baseball as well. We're live on YouTube and Facebook. If you got a question, a comment, a concern, drop it there. We'll get to it over the course of our show. And we're going to lead today's show talking some Pirate baseball with the all-time winningest coach in ECU baseball history. You can hear him right here on 94.3 The Game. He was in Fayetteville last night. He is Dr. Gary Overton. Coach O, how's it going?
Really good. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thrilled to have you in. We've obviously, connected a lot in the past. Talked a lot of baseball in the press box, which we'll do over the course of this show. And it was kind of good timing because although the Pirates didn't play well last night, we'll get into that. Nobody could see the game that was listening, but they could hear you and Dylan on the call. So I do want to get some of your insight as far as what happened with last night. But I guess we'll start there, Coach. 9-4, ECU sees their 5-game winning streak come to an end against the Seahawks of UNC Wilmington in Fayetteville, Sager Stadium. So what stuck out to you from the game as we kind of look at it broadly to start with?
Well, I think first and foremost, Stephen, was the fact that the Pirate pitching from the beginning, first 3 to 4 guys that the Pirates ran out there, just had little, if any, command, especially early in the game. And then without that command, giving up a few hits in between, I think UNCW had 15 for the night. And in so doing, they recaptured a lead after falling behind 3-1, but that was due to the Pirate pitching woes, and as Pirates moved to guys like Lance Williams, Jake Hunter, and guys of that nature, Brad Pruitt even pitching well at the end, but too little, too late.
Pirates fall 9-4. Yeah, so I was looking at the raw numbers. So 7 walks total, 3 hit by pitches, and I remember tweeting after the 4th inning, Coach, which is when UNCW at that time had taken an 8-3 lead. At that time, ECU had walked 6 and hit 3 batters, so 9 free passes through 4 innings. That's going to get you beat majority of the time.
Almost always.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Was it a tight zone, or were guys just struggling to throw the ball over the white?
We have seen tighter zones this year, and all over college baseball we're hearing about that, and that's due to an umpire adjustment. Somewhat. But at the same time, the command of the last 3 guys was no difficulty. And in so speaking, I think the initial pitchers had a little difficulty in trying to adjust to the zone or trying to be too precise with the zone, where guys like Hunter, Pruitt, and Williams came in and pumped strikes from the beginning, getting ahead and working from there.
No doubt. UNCW, you talk about it, 15 hits combined with 10 free passes. That's 25 base runners right there. And the ECU did not have a clean inning on the mound throughout the 9 innings. So it was just one of those days where they were on the base pass a lot. And it's tough, too, when I thought ECU good at bats early, Coach, and then when you fall behind by 8-3, it's easier for the other team to attack because there's not as much pressure as far as, the other team doing some damage in that spot, right?
Absolutely. The other team can actually be a little more free with where they throw strikes and how they throw strikes. But as far as the team that's behind, trying to catch up, it kind of takes away a lot of the team offense. Now, we saw a well-executed hit and run early in the game that actually allowed the Pirates to take the lead and going ahead 3-1. But those things are out the window when you fall behind 8-3.
No doubt. Can't lose base runners when you're down 5 runs or 5 or more runs. Coach Gary Overton with us in studio. Always great to get Coach O's perspective. We'll talk about the season as a whole. I do want to hit on a couple of bright spots last night and a guy who continues to swing the bat well, Coach Braden Burris, Green Central guy, Snow Hill guy, Slight Cliff Godwin. So He has been a nice surprise as a freshman. A lot of freshmen on this team, but he's just a spark plug at the top.
Really is, and I think he enjoys and relishes that role. But you're right; he's what we call a table setter, and he's a guy that can make things happen. But he does so by getting an inning going. And last night, that was a rocket double he hit off the base of the wall down in the left field corner. At the same time, a run producer and just fulfilling that leadoff role in a very valuable way.
How much do you feel like the absence of Riley Johnson has, and we've talked to Cliff Godwin about it, he has said he doesn't want to make excuses. He said he doesn't want the media talking about it as much because it creates a narrative. But I'm like, look, I mean, you're missing one of your leaders. You're missing one of your top leadoff guys that we expected to have, and he's not there. So how much has that maybe impacted this team at times?
I think at times quite a bit, mostly because he's a leader in a lot of ways, and not just defensively, as we've seen him make tremendous plays in the outfield. And he's the type of guy that's a Gold Glove player in that position. But also, as a leadoff guy, he possesses some power. Yeah. And that alone can get not just innings started, but sections of the game beginning. We like to talk about early innings, middle innings, late innings, but he can actually alter that with his bat.
Visiting with Coach Gary Overton in studio. He was in Fayetteville last night. Segra Stadium, Pirates lose 9-4. They're now 12-9 on the season. See their 5-game winning streak come to an end. What do you think about Segra Stadium? I went for the UNC game last year. I think it's pretty nice, Coach. What about you?
It really is. And, minor league parks have gotten that way.
Yeah.
We played Queens in Kannapolis, 2-3 years, I think it's 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And those two stadiums are very much alike. Now, neither of the two resemble Knight Stadium in Charlotte, where the Pirates will play later, because that's a downtown stadium, much larger, a skyline view and things like that. But as far as the amenities of a minor league park, absolutely, Segra Stadium up there.
Yeah, definitely enjoy it. It's Fayetteville Woodpeckers' home, and I hope the Pirates can continue to play there. When you were the coach, did y'all ever have any neutral site games like that?
You'd be surprised that we would play in Kinston a couple of times a year. We actually played Carolina over there. We've played Duke there several times. So yeah, we did. But our it was regulated to Kinston and the Mudcat Stadium.
Right.
I think we had a 2-game series with Carolina in the Mudcat Stadium one year.
A lot of fun, those neutral site games. Outside of the fact, as we were talking, not on TV, but hey, that's why we tune in to 94.3 The Game, listen to Dylan Johnson and you on the call. Coach O with us in studio. So the season at this point, Coach, 12-9 overall through 21 games, and there's been ups, there's been downs. I would say for the most part, ECU has beaten the teams that you would expect them to beat and has lost to some of the top teams that they have played. What was kind of your overall takeaway as we've seen a little bit of a retooled roster, so to speak?
I think the challenging schedule that the Pirates have played to this point can only help later on. Now, when you say ups and downs, the downs probably were the fact that we did not win a game in 3 tries against North Carolina, or that we did lose 2 games to Coastal at home. Well, look at those teams.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about probably top 15 teams there. Now, along the way, the Pirates will play teams like Duke, NC State. So that'll continue on as the season goes. But how I see this particular team at this particular point in the season is that it's too early to tell.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially with such a, it's kind of a unique time in college sports. Coach O, obviously, you know, covering it, but it's, Cliff Godwin could have gone out, and they did add some portal pitchers, and they added some portal players. He could have said, all right, the heck with these freshmen. We're just going to take all portal guys. And we've seen a lot of freshmen play. I mean, we talked about Braden Burst, Michael Kalinich. Austin Irby's been a key piece. Drew Downs, Alex Peltier, all these guys we're seeing on a nightly basis, and that's not even mentioning a lot of the pitchers. So what do you think about right now the philosophy of, hey, you're in a way rebuilding or reloading, however you want to phrase it? This should pay dividends down the line, of course, assuming you keep these guys. With the portal, you never know. But I think Cliff still wants to build the program that way. Are you still a fan of it as well, trying that method even in a unique time?
Very much so. But at the same time, when we talk about the challenging schedule going forward, conference play. Should the Pirates put on a run during the conference season, many good things can happen. Not only will RPI go or skyrocket, but possibility of winning the regular season and then the conference tournament ends up in a stellar year, as occurred, 2-3 years ago? I believe?
That 20-game winning streak or so, that would be nice.
Was it 22, 24?
22, when everybody was thinking the Pirates weren't going to make a regional. They go on an insane run, ended up hosting, and made a super regional.
They hosted a super regional.
Super regional,
yes.
So you
that,
never know.
And that was my inference when I was talking about the challenging schedule and to this point, just unsure, because it could develop into a real good year, a quality year. But do I like the development of players and keeping the program? Yeah, absolutely.
And, you can see the talent. It's not like these guys don't have the ability, Coach. Like, I'm sure as players grow and mature, they'll get stronger. They'll add more velocity as well. But, like, I see a lot of raw talent is what I'm trying to say, like on the field. It's just a matter of how it all gels. And throwing strikes is a big part of that as well.
Yeah, and you start with the position players, and you mentioned Burris and Austin Irby. I mean, that's two guys that have produced. And sometimes around them, it's allowing older players who've had limited time to this point to do the same. Look at Walker Barron.
Yeah,
he's swinging the bat well. Colby Wallace, we knew was going to be a leader with Dixon Williams coming in. But Colby Wallace really putting together a not just solid year, better than that.
And that was after a slow start. He's gotten hot recently. What do you think about Dixon Williams to this point? He's hit the ball well recently. He's getting on base. And teams are – it's tough, too, when you're one of the guys who is marked in a lineup. They're trying to be careful with him, and he has to stay patient. But how do you think Dixon's kind of handled that elevated role?
Well, your point is good. I think teams have pitched around him, no question. But I think he's handled the role really well. He hasn't tried to run with it. He's allowed it to come to him. And because of that, I think some of the younger players are actually better players because of what he does on the field. He's been asked to play many positions, and look what he's done defensively at second base. I mean, his range, especially to his left, is remarkable.
I've been impressed, Coach, with Walker Barron. You mentioned him as a first-year starting catcher. And defensively especially, he's had a lot of good at-bats, too. I've noticed he consistently puts the ball in play. Even with 2 strikes, which I like, but doesn't seem to let a lot behind him. I know he allowed a few wild pitches last night. Maybe it wasn't his best game, but to this point, and he's almost caught every inning. So,
yes.
He's done a heck of a job. I don't know your thoughts on Walker.
I really like what I see. And as only a sophomore, if you really look closely, unlike the Pirates who are trying to run and implement their running game a little bit now, others are not doing that. I think Walker Barron has thrown out just enough base stealers or potential base stealers to eliminate teams wanting to run.
All right, we're visiting with Coach Gary Overton. We've got a couple comments about somebody said Jackson DiLorenzo averaging close to 16 walks per 9 innings. Again, small sample size, Coach, but he was a guy that, and I still think can turn it around. You mentioned it. We're 21 games into a 56-game regular season, so we're still more than half a season to go. But he's a guy who struggled with command last night, and it doesn't seem like he's missing by a ton. Is it mental for a guy like that who has some experience, maybe putting too much pressure on his shoulders? You think what would be your assessment of a guy who we know can do it, we know has his stuff, but maybe struggling a little bit with command?
Yeah, and quite often when you fall behind the hitters, it causes you to do things that you're not able to do. And that's probably what his issue is. But let's think back to last year. At the end of the year, he was actually stellar, especially in postseason play. So you're right. He's a guy that can and will do it. And when he makes some type of tweak or some adjustment in the mentality of what he's doing, because it's not physical, and it's not a physical thing. It's like I said, it could be something as small as falling behind the hitters, or it could be something as not executing a pitch in a location that he likes, and then he trying to make adjustments he can't make. Could be any of those.
Somebody's asking about a couple of pitchers who are hurt, and I'll provide another update on this, and I'll get your take on it as well. So Brett Antolik, he was a Texas A&M transfer. He's been out. He had hip surgery. And then Ryan Towers, Loyola Marymount transfer. Both those guys are expected back at some point. Towers sounds more like April, and Tolik, who was a high-rated recruit, has pitched in the Cape Cod League, kind of projected back towards the end of March. And this is if all goes well. As you know, Coach, you never know with injuries, pitching injuries especially. But those are two guys that could have been in the weekend rotation to begin the year. Towers was looking like a potential Saturday guy to begin with. He goes down in one of the last scrimmages. So losing those two guys, in theory, I mean, that makes everybody else's role different. So if you could get those guys back, and we'll see what happens in the line, how much could that change things?
Oh, it could change a lot. And getting the guys back in particular roles might make it even better. Now, what that has allowed to do, or allowed Coach Godwin to do, is to utilize more personnel and to determine where they will fit in, if at all. And there's some players who have played their way, like Lance Williams, Ethan Young, into more playing time or more pitching time. And then there are others who actually have played their way out of position, so to speak.
For sure. We're 21 games into the season. We'll see what the rest of the year has to hold. I do want to touch on Ethan Norby, Ethan Young, and other positives as well. We'll get a break in with Coach O. We'll also ask him his thoughts about Rice hiring a head coach to take over mid-season and if he maybe could accomplish the same. We'll discuss that and more. This is Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
The Pirates play here.
Arr!
This is Hoist the Colors Radio with Stephen Igo.
Yes! That was so good!
On 94.3, The Game.
Welcome back in, Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday. Philip Pilkington producing, along with intern Chris behind the scenes. And we got Coach O, Gary Overton, in studio. You can hear him on 94.3 The Game for just about every baseball game. He was there in Fayetteville last night. And working with a new play-by-play guy this year, Dylan Johnson, we've had on the show, Coach. And definitely, first year, I'm sure there's been, some growing pains, just like a freshman on the baseball team. There's some things you got to learn along the way. But how's it gone with Dylan, and can you see him getting better every game? Do you have to ever coach him up at all?
Well, I'm not sure that we have to coach him up at all, but Absolutely, he's getting better, and it was good from the beginning. Very knowledgeable young man who is very intent on doing the best job and the most professional job possible.
Yeah.
He is professional in every way, shape, and form, and it's been a joy to work with him, and that's a testament to him.
How are you enjoying these last few years, going to more of the road games and being able to, travel? Because I know previously you had the other job along with calling games at ECU. So are you enjoying that aspect of it more?
Oh, yeah, very much
Yeah.
so. Road trips are very fun, especially when you're playing quality opponents. And the Pirates have played UNC, as we said, and Duke next week coming up on Tuesday night. And, of course, in Segra Stadium against UNC. Yeah, those are very special trips. But you learn more and more about the team and the program, and you see the players evolve in a different way, and especially how they play on the road sometimes and how an individual player adapts to that.
Dr. Gary Overton with us in studio. So right now, Coach, the winningest all time in ECU history. Cliff, he's coming for you, though. So, look, you got to be proud, though, obviously, of what you were able to accomplish. And then what does it mean to still see the program in such a positive light, being around it, like with all the time, hard work you spent here, and then seeing what Cliff and Coach LeClaire, others before him have done as well?
Absolutely. When Cliff surpasses that mark, that's certainly a testament to him, his players, Coach LeClaire, and all that they've done. And you mentioned the fact that I was proud of what we accomplished. And again, I think any coach would tell you that was a testament to the players that I had. And because of that, ECU baseball historically has been very, very good. And Cliff Godwin has done a remarkable job. He learned under Coach LeClaire. Just seeing the program not having to evolve, just seeing it being a nationally known product is a very special thing. And we'll just I guess we'll all be glad when Cliff makes that pass, because it's so important to ECU baseball.
And it really comes full circle, because you recruited Cliff, right, and signed him, and obviously he redshirted under you the first year. So do you remember much at all about the recruitment process and seeing from Cliff Godwin then as a young high schooler to now? Like, what kind of goes through your mind?
What we see is a guy who developed with college talent. He became a very good player, and he happened to play behind Clayton McCullough.
Pretty good.
That was no easy task there. But seeing a guy develop not just as a good player and a good college player, but into the role that he now has, and following his trend of being an assistant coach at major programs was interesting as well. But anytime you see a former player or a former recruit just make it, not just in the field of sports, but in any field, it's a special moment, and you feel even more proud for that to occur.
It is awesome for sure, full circle moment, and just ECU baseball is just such a unique thing. Like covering ECU football, obviously you got tradition, pageantry there, but the family of ECU baseball, it just feels like everything's so interconnected. It's really special to be a part of. Speaking of family, Ethan Norby and Connor Norby, who's now with Clayton McCullough with the Miami Marlins, but Ethan Norby, I mean, what he's done this season is pretty remarkable, Coach, and we'll start with the 19 strikeout game. Have you ever seen anything like that?
One time.
Yeah.
I was there the night that Hal Baird struck out 20 and set the record. But Ethan Norby, that's a feat in itself. But how about shutouts?
Yeah.
Before and after. I mean, he's a guy who's been very productive. Now, it actually was his third start before he got a win because he had some hard luck losses. The 2-0 loss in Durham to North Carolina was really a hard luck loss. I think they scored on a ground ball and a sacrifice fly.
Yes.
So he's pitched extremely well, and he's become the bell cow of this staff.
And we were saying in the preseason, we were like, this staff is almost better when he's in the bullpen. I'll be the first to say I was wrong at this point. He's pretty good as a Friday night guy. What adjustments have you seen him make? It looks like his velocity's ticked up a little bit, but also, I mean, just he was working fast last year, but he just seems to be, I don't know, so much more locked in from pitch to pitch this year.
Well, locked in. I think that's due to age and experience. But you go back to what's different. And he had a good two-seam fastball that he would run away, especially to right-handed hitters. But what's more important right now is that he's utilizing his slider and his cutter really well. You know, his changeup works and works well, but he doesn't have to use it as much because of the other three pitches.
It's awesome to see his maturation, and I still remember texting with his old travel ball coach. He was texting me after seeing him throw in high school, and he was like, ECU needs to get on this kid. They did, and it turned out to be pretty good for both parties for sure. Ethan Young, coach, has been phenomenal out of the bullpen. What have you seen out of the man they call him Diesel? So what have you seen out of him?
Well, he's a guy that feels very confident about his stuff.
He should, right?
Yes, he should. Absolutely. And he's starting to run the baseball up there at 96. So, you know, he's another power arm for these Pirates, but he executes his breaking ball really well, too. I would like to go back to Ethan Norby just a minute. You're right about him with the increased velocity, but it doesn't hurt that he's left-handed.
For sure. And he hides the ball well, too, with his release.
Very, very much so. And uses a simple rocker step. His mechanics are very, very sound, but he not only throws, delivers, but he also rushes the ball to the plate, and that's a little acceptance there as well.
Sean Jenkins, coach, we've had him on this show. Look, he's 17 years old, and you know I still don't think he's had his best stuff. I don't know if you saw him at all in the preseason. Like, he was 94 to 96, and it seems like the velocity a little down, but you know, you still see the maturity on the mound, and I think his best ball is ahead of him. And then you mentioned Lance Williams, so both those guys they're freshmen, and they're trying to start on the weekend, so you expect some ups and downs. But I think, would you agree their best ball is in front of them?
No question, and both of them very talented arms. You know, if a person only looks at a stat sheet, you look at a guy like Sean Jenkins and you think he's a finesse guy, and he's not.
Yeah,
he's a power arm, but at the same time, you don't expect a 17-year-old to get the number of strikeouts that a senior in college would do. And that's, again, going back to the experience, look how much better Norby is this year than last. And he was good last year.
No doubt. Dr. Gary Overton with us. All right, Coach, you did a lot of coaching. Do you ever think you could take over a coaching job mid-season like Rice is doing right now? They hired David Pierce, the old Texas coach, formerly of Tulane. He has now been hired as the Rice coach, and he's not going to start at the end of the season. He's going to start right now as they begin conference play. ECU will see him in a few weeks. What do you think about that move?
Well, I think the move is good, and I think the right person was hired. Is it hard to do? I won't say it's impossible, but there are some adjustments that have to be made, especially in the situation that he's in. He will come into a good and historical program that's not really good right now. But he can turn that around. Will he turn it around fast? I don't think so. And I don't think he even thinks so. Therefore, the adjustments that he makes will have to be slow and steady. And what is it that Cliff is so good at discussing about developing the culture and doing it on a slow and consistent basis? That's what David Pierce will have to, or anyone who comes in the middle of a season. You want to do more, but it's not to be.
Right. How much will his patience be tested during this process?
Oh my! And there'll be many nights that he will lose a little sleep because he hasn't done this or hasn't done that, but probably the situation doesn't allow him to.
Coach, the RPI, we reference it this time of year just to kind of have somewhat of a baseline, but I still feel like it's a little too early as we sit here in mid-March, basically about a month into the season, a month and some change. So when do you start paying attention to the RPI? You know, you're heavily involved still with the NCAA in some regard, and former committee member. So when is it worth really discussing during the course of a season?
Well, a general saying was 1st of April. Yep. But I think maybe just a little later, like after the first week of April, and by then your RPI is not bouncing around. Yeah. It's pretty, I won't say set, but it's in a position where it's going to move little one way or the other unless there's something dramatic that happens. And at the same time, you're in a position then where teams on a so-called bubble, and that's generically speaking, but teams in that realm, they need to start winning games, and that needs to be a focus and particularly away games. So that's when you start casting the eye from the game itself toward that bubble on the sheet.
What's your feelings on the RPI in general? Just because we've seen men's basketball go away from, and women's basketball, other sports to an extent, go away from RPI and go more towards the net, which has its flaws as well. I guess any metric does, but RPI has been used for so long, and there's pros and cons. And I don't know, like ECU last week, again, it's probably too early to reference RPI, but they were 60. They go 5-0 with 4 double-digit wins. They fall 30 spots in the RPI. So, like, I don't know, could we come up with a more advanced metric, or is this just what we're going to continue to use?
Well, that 30 drop certainly is the bounce that you're talking about. At the same time, baseball uses RPI. Basketball, to some extent, does revert back to RPI, although they have the net ranking. And baseball now in the quadrant system, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But each year the committee actually works on tweaking that because their job is to really oversee all postseason play, not just necessarily the regular season, because they have little to do with that. But anything that reverts to possibilities in postseason play, whether it be play on the field or who gets there to make that play on the field, I think you'll see it tweaked year in and year out. And the quadrant has made things for the better. I think you'll see some more things come involved as well.
Johnny Robertson, he's in our chat. He says 8-13 Xavier is still number 2 in the RPI. He's been referencing it, which a lot of that has to do with if they're only playing on the road, you get a bump, right?
Road is definitely a bump, but also who you play.
Right.
And many of the teams that they have scheduled.
Really good.
Exactly.
So we'll continue to follow the RPI. And do you feel like this? My perspective is I feel like to some extent, margin of victory should maybe matter at least a little bit. Because if you're out there, if you're like last week, for example, ECU, on paper they were playing subpar teams or teams that were struggling, but they were beating them by 10-plus runs. Like, would you like to see that one day be, I don't know, mixed into the formula? Like, if you're going out there, maybe you're playing bad teams, but you win by 10 runs, should you really drop in the RPI or the rankings, you know?
Well, the intent is to do anything that increases or decreases the body of work, because the measurement is just that, regardless of whether it be for a selection or for ranking or seeding or whatever. But I'm not sure, Stephen, that how badly a team is beaten really enhances that body of work. And for that reason, I'm going to say no. I don't really want to see that, because I then think, and this is not speaking for or against coaches by any means, but I think you'll see some teams try to run scores up just for that purpose.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point for sure, and definitely worth considering with all this stuff going forward. So ECU right now, last night they were 90th in the RPI going into the game. Again, a lot of movement will take place with each game, as you said, kind of going into mid-April when it stabilizes a bit. But let's say East Carolina, by virtue of what they've done thus far, maybe their RPI is not in the top 45 at the end of the season, but they have a regular season conference championship. Like, how much does that matter to the committee versus just a hard RPI number, so to speak?
Not winning either the regular season or the tournament is a detriment.
Yeah.
Winning one of the two is, I would say, a feather in your cap. Winning both makes everyone sit up wide-eyed.
Right.
It's a huge thing to win both, and the Pirates have done that frequently in the last few years.
And it's not easy to do, but ECU has done it for sure. A couple more things. We'll get you out of here, Coach Gary Overton. For this team, what do you feel like some of the consistent keys are going into conference play? Memphis in town this weekend to, hopefully win another conference title and just see the potential kind of come to light with this program.
Yeah, the Pirates are doing a lot of things well. I really like the way they play defense and the way they run the bases. I think the base running has been a big element of some of the things. I think it's what allowed the Pirates to take the lead last night in the game at Fayetteville. But to move forward in a positive way, I'm sure that Cliff Godwin and his staff, they're working on this every day. And so some of the things that you and I would say have probably been already discussed many times over in the room. But, yeah, I think that offensively little changes need to be made. But on the pitching front, and Austin Knight would be the first person to tell you this, it's not only establishing roles, which the Pirates are trying to do, and they have been trying to do, but I think getting into a mid-relief, a true setup guy, which Ethan Young is really ideally suited for that. But you can't have both him and Lance Williams in the bullpen when you need at least one of them in the rotation, and Lance Williams seems to have assumed that role. But I think from the pitching end, I think some pitchers have to learn how to gain command and learn how to not be so exact. But again, these are things that Austin Knight has discussed with his staff many times over.
No doubt. He's probably getting tired of saying it already, but good stuff for sure. Dr. Gary Overton, Coach, we appreciate the time in studio. We'll get you back in. How about once the RPI is fully stabilized, we'll get you back on for a postseason discussion. How about that?
We'd certainly have more to talk about then.
No doubt, no doubt. Coach O, one of the best for sure, the all-time winningest coach in ECU baseball history. We'll get a break in. We'll come back. Philip Pilkin and I will share our thoughts on the game as well, and we'll get into last night's UNC victory over San Diego State. Also look ahead to the first round of the NCAA tournament beginning on Thursday. We'll be right back. This is Hoist the Colors.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Looking for a great deal on a new Nissan?
At Greenville Nissan, we've got a great selection of new Nissans for under $30,000.
The stylish Nissan Sentra, offering top-notch fuel economy. The Nissan Altima, known for its comfort and technology.
The Nissan Kicks, the perfect combination with its compact design and performance. The Nissan Versa, delivering incredible value without compromising on features. And don't forget the Nissan Rogue, an award winner for 10 years in a row. Drive it home just for $22 down and $349 a month.
Visit GreenvilleNissan.com today.
Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in Color and let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Pirate fans, 2025 East Carolina football season tickets are on sale now and can be purchased for as little as $115. Head coach Blake Harrell wants you to be a part of his first full season as the Pirate coach as he builds momentum off of the 8-win season and the Military Bowl win over North Carolina State. Call 1-800-DIAL-ECU or go to ECUPirates.com today to get your 2025 season tickets.
Here there be Pirates. Back to Hoist the Colors with Steve and I go. How good is this on 94.3 The Game?
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday, March 19th edition of the program. The NCAA tournament got underway last night. We'll discuss that here in a little bit. North Carolina defeating the San Diego State Aztecs by a wide margin. I went to bed at halftime because it was such a lopsided game. Before that, Alabama State beat our guy, Valentino Pinedo, St. Francis. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I did want to give Philip Pilkington a chance to discuss last night's game a little bit. ECU baseball falling to UNCW 9-4. We also got several comments we'll read. Again, thanks to Coach O, Gary Overton, for his insight. Really always just love talking ball with Coach O. Not much beats that. One of the best in the business for sure. Pirates fall 9-4, 12-9 on the season. Philip, any thoughts on last night's game before we move on to some basketball discussion?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a letdown. You know, we talked about last week being the get right week and this being proven that you got right. And you went out there, hit the ball okay, I guess, but just uncompetitive pitches. And it kind of felt like it did those first few midweeks. And it was like, I get the opponent matters to an extent, but at the end of the day, throwing strikes is throwing strikes. And against VCU, we threw a lot of strikes. And back-to-back outings now for Nick Moran going into that were him throwing a lot of strikes. And then Nick Moran looks like a guy who, gets slotted into one of the last spots in the bullpen when he's supposed to be our midweek starter and supposed to be a guy who can go out there and get you through the lineup one solid time. And it just seemed like his struggles early set the tone for what was a kind of a lackluster performance on the mound from East Carolina. And you're going to have those midweek letdowns here and there, but it's a little frustrating when you're 12-9 now and you have one of those midweek letdowns. I mean, it always seems like we're going to struggle one game out of the year against Wilmington. That's just is what it is. They bring their A game for us. We're their Super Bowl. We know that, but you're going to have to start winning some baseball games. Now, obviously, they're winning some, but you can't say, oh, well, that's just college baseball, but so many times in a season, and it kind of feels like a broken record saying, well, sometimes that's just college baseball.
Yeah, I mentioned it with Coach O. This team, to this point, has largely beaten the subpar teams they've faced, and they've lost to the good teams they've faced. I mean, right now, ECU is a middle-of-the-pack baseball team. I certainly think they have the potential for more, and there's time to get that done. You're 21 games into a 56-game season, but now with conference play here, it's almost like it's time for the team to start stabilizing a bit. And it's one midweek game, so I'm not going to overreact. And I do think the one thing I will react to is just the inability right now to throw strikes consistently. It is a major problem, and it's not just like a one-man or two-man problem with the pitching staff. It is a lot of pitchers. It is who do you trust right now to go in and throw strikes consistently? I mean, there's like 3 or 4 guys for me. Ethan Norby, Ethan Young, and Jake Hunter, is probably going to throw strikes, even though he walked a couple in the 9th on Saturday in the final game. So the stuff is there on the mound, throwing strikes and not hitting guys. That's a key going forward. And I think the offense has gotten better. Now the pitching staff needs to get better. The injuries play a role, but it's put up our shut-up time to an extent right now going into the conference play. I do want to read some of these comments. We got a lot in the comment section I wasn't able to get to with Coach O. Cameron says this team what it is at this point, and that is inconsistent. This team is too young. He says, I called it yesterday. The teams we played last week were 2 of the worst teams in the country. Lane Smith says this team will win nothing. There are 3 better teams in our conference by far. I'm putting all the blame on Cliff. The portal gets used effectively against us, and he refuses to use it. We should not have a talent problem. And Johnny Robertson adds, at the start of the season, I would have never guessed that Braxton Trammell would only have 10 at-bats after 21 games. He is the Sear Malonga of the baseball team so far. I kind of like that comparison.
I do too.
Cameron adds, don't think it's a talent problem. It's a youth problem. Can't field a bunch of 18-year-olds and expect to have success. I kind of agree. I think the raw talent is there for the most part. There are some certain areas I would like to see a talent upgrade, but I don't know. You're just young and inexperienced. Now, you do have some older transfers, honestly, that have not lived up to expectations. So the portal thing is hit or miss with me, Philip. What really hurts here, yeah, the portal's one thing. If you look back at Dixon Williams' recruiting class, I'm pretty sure he's the only player left from that recruiting class. And what is that class? Your juniors. And when you don't have many juniors at all, in this case 1, then that's your issue. ECU baseball is still going to have to rely on recruiting and development along with the occasional portal guy. So if anything, I blame that the most right now for some of the growing pains we're seeing.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that because, look, we mentioned the youth. historically in college athletics, you sit your freshman, sophomore year, you play your junior and senior year. When you've got one junior, pretty much one senior as far as position players go. I mean, let's think back to that Evansville press conference last year. Remember how much rearranging of chairs Cole had to do to get all those seniors in there? And those were seniors that played. Now, there were a lot of numbers painted on that field for senior night. Now, some of those guys were guys who didn't play a lot, but you think of, Starr, Carter, Joey Barini. I mean, you had senior, J-Dub. So, that's the problem. You graduated your whole starting lineup, and unfortunately, CG does a great job of getting guys in games, but a lot of the guys that maybe have gotten in games in the past that aren't here anymore. I mean, right now, Bristol Carter should be a sophomore and be a starter. He's not here. Riley's hurt is what it is. Obviously, you've got Dixon, but, I mean, like you said, his whole class is gone right now, and if you had still some of those, and obviously, congrats on JC for, leaving early and get drafted after his junior year. You built to have JC for 4 years because you always hope you're going to have a guy for 4 years. I know that's not realistic in college baseball, but that's the history of college athletics is you prep to, cycle through guys 25% of your roster every year if you can plan it out. So I mean, it's tough, but yeah, I mean, some of these young guys are going to have to step up, and there were some dudes who got a lot of decent playing time last year that we're not seeing hardly any of. Nick Parham, haven't seen much of him. Gosh, I feel like there's another name or two in this lineup, but really, right now you got Walker Barron, you got Austin Irby, who's a young guy, obviously Dixon, Colby. That's about it right now.
Yeah, it's looking back at the 22 class, I pulled it up. So obviously Parker Bird was in that class. That was an accident you never could prepare for. So, he would be in that class too. Parker Bird and Dixon Williams, the two players left from that class, still in the roster. You have Mason Smith, a pitcher who transferred, went JUCO, now is at Campbell. Cameron Burgess left the program. Nathan Chrisman transferred. Miles Curley transferred. Nick DeLisi, catcher, transferred to Jacksonville. Peyton Martin got drafted. He was the infielder / pitcher. As a surprise, he went pro. Connor Rasmussen transferred to Tulane. He's now one of their best players. Colby Thorndike transferred to Coastal. He obviously is having a pretty good year. And then Connor Gray and Sam Johnson, who I think didn't make it past the fall, plus Zach Root transferred to Arkansas. So, I mean,
Raz, the big one on there, I feel like we're missing. That's big. I mean, obviously Parker, but if you had Parker healthy and Rasmussen, you'd be feeling a lot better right now.
Yeah, and, you had some unfortunate circumstances with Parker and obviously with the draft with Peyton Martin. And, look, I mean, you're never going to hit 100% in recruiting, but when you only have one player left from a class 3 years later, that's a part of the issue. I'm not saying it's the only issue, but certainly a factor. Johnny adds he was not disrespecting Braxton or Sear. I was comparing the fact that both of them seemed to suddenly not get much playing time, and definitely a fair point for sure. Johnny, I tell you what, let's get our final break in. We'll come back. We'll switch gears. We'll talk NCAA tournament after this last night's game and looking ahead to tonight and tomorrow.
It's time to bring on the savings at Greenville Toyota with huge discounts on over 125 new Toyotas, like a Camry, $269 a month, or RAV4, $339 a month. Now bring yourself to Greenville Toyota and save.
The team of Flatlands Jessup is working overtime to help ensure that Eastern North Carolinians like you get the health insurance help you need this open enrollment period. New legislation passed meaning more people than ever qualify for affordable coverage. Let us help you today.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Everybody loves Tiebreakers.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
Tired of the 1-800 numbers advertising Medicare products? Flatlands Jessup has 6 offices all throughout eastern North Carolina. You get face-to-face help from our local award-winning licensed team. Stop by today. Flatlands Jessup, your whole world covered.
Your roof is a vital part of protecting your home and family from dangerous storms and hurricanes. At Assist Roofing, we install and maintain metal roofing that provides precise protection. Add value to your home while lowering utility costs with a fortified roof to last a lifetime. With 0% financing, grants, and Energy Star Green Roofing tax credit available. Call us to schedule a free consultation so you can weather any storm with confidence.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Get ready, because it's time to bring on the savings at Greenville Toyota. Get huge discounts on over 125 new Toyotas, like a Corolla, $239 a month, or Tacoma, $349 a month. Bring on the savings today at Greenville Toyota.
Back to Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo.
Drink up for me, hearties, yo ho.
On 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors, final segment here on HTC. We are going to talk some NCAA tournament now. We've talked a lot of ECU baseball. UNC, the Tar Heels, yes, it's, I'm sure, disgusting to some, but also some people enjoyed it, like intern Chris, who's a UNC basketball fan. UNC 95, San Diego State 68 last night. Got to say, Philip, I'm not surprised a first 4 team goes on a run every year, and it just feels like too easy in this case. North Carolina, once you make it in the tournament, all the pressure's off, all the doubters are still there, and they can just go out there and play. They can play with a chip on their shoulder, and they can play free at the same time because everybody's pulling against them that are not UNC fans, and I feel like we saw what they're capable of last night. R.J. Davis goes for 26. It was 47-23 at halftime. It was 82-42 at one point. And this is why I'm picking UNC to make a run in my bracket despite not hoping to see it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think a fire kind of got lit under their rear end, and it wasn't by, I think, Hubert Davis. It was by a combination of the media and college basketball fandom. You know, we all sit here and talked about how bad they were and how they didn't deserve. So they walked in with a chip on their shoulder and said, well, you watch us. We do deserve to be here. We believe in ourselves. And they went out there and proved it. I mean, you know, San Diego State's not a bad basketball team by any means. They were one of the teams that a lot of the experts actually had getting a bye. It was just that tough loss to Boise in the conference tournament that put them in the first four. I don't think there was any questions whether or not San Diego State belonged in the tournament. And, hey, man, Carolina went out there and proved it. So I'm with you. I think they make the Sweet 16. But we'll see. It's Ole Miss has been playing tough teams all year. I don't think they're great, but they're in the SEC, so they know how to play tough games.
Have you seen the line for the Ole Miss game?
No.
Who do you think is favored?
They're going to favor Carolina, aren't they?
Yes, UNC is favored by 1.5.
Hey.
There you go. Good call. North Carolina favored against Ole Miss. Tonight, you've got Mount St. Mary's and American, former conference mate of ECU in the CAA. How about that? I remember when ECU used to be able to, they were only able to win one road game a year back when I was a little kid, and it was at American. And that was like the one game I look forward to every year because I was like, this is the road game ECU's going to win. Well, now American University is in the tournament, and they take on Mount St. Mary's in the 16 play-in game. And then Xavier in Texas. How do you feel about this one? I made a bet, and I put money on Texas, and then I immediately regretted it because Xavier is playing in Dayton, Ohio, obviously close to home. I feel like they'll have a home court advantage, but I think Texas has more talent. It's just I don't know here. I feel like this might be another game that turns into a rout one way or the other.
You know, Xavier's 1-9 in quad one games.
Yeah.
They're one of those teams, they really do take care of business against teams they should, and they struggle against teams they shouldn't. Now, how good is Texas? I don't know. They've got a lot of losses, but a lot of those losses are to good basketball teams. I think this is going to be a very tight basketball game. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know the styles of both of these teams, just kind of going off, you know, the final scores and records of both clubs. So I'm not really leaning either way on this one. I do think American will be favored against Mount St. Mary's, or at least should win just solely. I think they're 2.5-point favorites, just solely because there is some injury problems in the Mountaineer program right now, and American, I believe, is fully healthy.
All right, so there's your look ahead to tonight, and then the real action gets underway Thursday. We will be on this show when Creighton and Louisville tip it off 12:15 on CBS. That'll begin a full day of action, and I am so ready for it. Creighton Louisville is a great game to start off, Philip, and I'm going to be honest, we were originally scheduled to have a Team Boneyard member on tomorrow. I am going to provide a Team Boneyard update after talking with some people, but me and you are just going to talk hoops the whole hour. And
Let's go.
We'll talk some ECU as well, but we're going to look ahead to the whole slate for Thursday and Friday, and we're going to dive in. I'm ready.
Let's do it. I'm ready. And we'll do that. For people who are driving around their cars, we'll give them score updates as to what's going on with the Cardinals and the Blue Jays.
Can't wait, man. We'll have our full official bracket picks tomorrow. We'll break that down as well as the NCAA tournament really gets underway on Thursday. Hope you tune in with us. 12 noon. We will see you then. Hope everybody has a good afternoon.